Hello, everyone, and welcome to Young at Heart, a special edition, not numbered, because I want to share with you this fascinating contemporary poem that I found in the May 11th issue of none other than America Magazine, subtitled The Jesuit Review of Faith and Culture. It's a great little magazine. It comes out twice a month. It's by the great Jesuits of America. Well, of America, this America, and here in the United States. It offers articles specifically on faith, but also articles about what's going on in the world with a Catholic perspective, sometimes critique, sometimes an affirmation. And because of culture, there's movie reviews, book reviews, and occasional, or maybe more than occasional, poems. This poem was submitted by the actual poem editor, who is a poet himself, and I've just lost the page, so here we are. This poet's name is Father Joe Hoover, S.J., as I said, America's poetry editor. And here he's grappling with that special relationship between fathers and daughters. So here we're talking family, we're talking kinship. The title is In the Wake of the Heartbeat Bills. Bit ambiguous, the title, but I'll explain more at the end. In the Wake of the Heartbeat Bills. A few things you need to know before I begin. He quotes or makes reference to the prophet Jeremiah, the great, 6th century BCE prophet who foretold the destruction of Jerusalem, who endured the diaspora of the Jewish people when Nebuchadnezzar and those Babylonians came and destroyed the great temple. And then he provided both critique and hope for the people to ultimately return to the land of Israel. So the Jeremiah quote that he references is Jeremiah 1, verse 5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I dedicated you. A prophet to the nations, I appointed you. God's sense of the fate, or rather destiny, he's inviting Jeremiah and you and me to achieve our fullest potential, the fullest good that we can achieve. There's also reference to the use of the word quickening. Now, when I hear quickening, I always think about a woman's child in the womb who's kicking and ready to come out of the womb. It often refers to someone about to give birth. Its other meaning is to make alive and to hasten. So again, now we have, because of father-daughter relationship, something about bringing her to a new consciousness, perhaps, is his attempt, but also reminding us and him of her mother and their biological union and the stuff of children. The word fabricate, again, we often think of fabrication in terms of a lie, but it could be a little more generic. May not be lie here, I don't think it is. To invent, though, to create. And the more confusing one, for those of us who haven't had philosophy in a long time, is his use of the word form. Form with a capital F, F-O-R-M. Now, generally, we think of form as the external shape or appearance, the shape of something. The thing, what it's composed of, what's the form of an orange. There's pulp, there's juice, there's seeds, there's the rough skin. All of that is the form. But when we get into philosophy, we go back to Plato. Remember Plato? No, not what you molded and made all those kind of shapes with. Plato. I have to be careful. This is a young at heart session. Although, You might have already getting ready to press the button there. But for those who wish to persevere, Plato, the philosopher, he spoke of form as what is permanent in a substance or a thing or a person. What is the permanent reality that makes a thing or someone what he or she is, in contrast to what is finite and subject to change. So each of us have a form, the human form, not the outside of our bodies, that changes from infancy to toddlerhood to teenage to young adult to on and on we go. So, but the essence of who we are. Now, Aristotle, who started out as a pupil, say that 3 times, a pupil of Plato, a pupil of Plato, a pupil of Plato, went a different direction, and form for Aristotle, again with a capital F, is metaphysical. It's the active determining principle of a thing. And for Aristotle, there was no separation between the outward sign and the inward essence. And Thomas Aquinas built on this form of Aristotle, so that we can speak of the human soul, the human spirit, and the human body to try and explore the different components of who we are, but they're inseparable. You can't extract one from the other. We speak that way, but in essence, we are exactly body, soul, and spirit, all one. You can't, if you take something out, if you take one thing out, it's not who you are, which is a very important part for the Christian understanding of resurrection of the dead. It's so intimately tied. Yes, we're transformed, but nothing of the physical or the spirit or the soul is essentially changed. It's our form. It does change. It's transformed in death. We're then beyond the restrictions of time, the restrictions of physics, of biology, but nothing of that essence has changed at all. So think of that as this, because this story this poem is about a preacher and his daughter. So he's going to be trying to insert some philosophical religious dynamics to a girl who simply wants to go someplace where dad doesn't really think it's a good idea that she go. And above all this, she wants her father to be the one to take her there. Imagine. So, but with a lot of fun and play on words, here we go. I'll do my best. I've only been reading it over several times before I recorded this for you. Again, in the wake of the heartbeat bills. Right, I'll explain that a little too. Heartbeat, what really connects a parent to a child, a parent to a teenager, in this case a father to his teenage daughter. In the wake of the heartbeat bills. Now, why is he using the word bills? Well, I think it's sort of like the cost of deeply loving one who has not yet achieved her fullness, whose form is still being clarified, if you will. Are you ready for all this? Well, I hope so, for something in me said I had to share it. I had to share it with you. So here we go. In the Wake of the Heartbeat Bills by Father Jesuit Joe Hoover. Then there was the one about the preacher's daughter, who, after telling him what she intended, by him was told, exact words we only suppose, why, what there was needed to stay where it was growing, ongoing, already there, or at least the deep hunch, enough to fabricate soul and such. In short, consider, maybe he said, Jeremiah, before I formed you, etc. And who in their right mind wants to tangle with Jeremiah? He's mad. Thus, what's formed by form itself ought to stay that way, my child. And when she didn't budge, conform heart to form, or formed evidently, abandoned Jeremiah, the preacher did, tore down the gates of the mind, drove her to the place of unforming. Why exactly, it did not say. Maybe because he was her father, had car. That's the story she told 40 years on in a Midwestern paper as backdrop for her hard-earned position on the matter. And it spins your head to wondering if, in the worst moment of her life, your own image and likeness, about to remove likeness and image twice removed of you having desperately tried to salvage heartbeat, thinkest thou quickened there, my child? A duck? And heart-rent, having none of it, asks just a ride, nothing more, because there's no one else around, Dad. Not in the least my co-conspirator in this matter, and I'd rather not ride in a cab, like going to the airport or something. And where am I really going? Would you thus realign your heartbeat to hers? Take your daughter there, the unholiest there you guess you could go, because you cannot let her alone, no matter the moral cost to your moral soul. Quickening morals more and more, though moral never quickens fully so, because of living moral, what do we really fully know? And if you decide to do it, heart melted into, what the hell? Would you stay silent and pretty much just drive? Well, I hope you had fun with that. I did. I'm still figuring out the rhythms and the cadence. A tip of the hat to Father Joe Hoover, and maybe I'll send this to him, or maybe I won't. Thank you so much for joining me for this little extra Young at Heart session. Stay healthy. God bless. Take good care. Bye now. Oops.